Okay, here's a pile of the 1.5-inch hexes. There are 12 castings of the mold here, which is about 10 pounds of plaster. So 2 milk carton sized boxes worth of plaster will produce this many hexes. Now you can use these hexes for a flat surface if you want to. They're not really meant for that. Here's a classic Battletech miniature, and this is on the 1.5-inch hexes. You can kind of see the rock texture here, and you can see the hexes pretty well. If I zoom out here, 12 castings of the mold will give you something about this size, about 20 inches wide by about 15 inches deep. And you can also see that we've used the half hexes and the quarter hexes to sort of fill in. Let's see if I can zoom in there. You can see that you can create straight edges by using those half and quarter hexes. Okay, for gluing together these rock hexes, there's a few things we need. Basically, all you need is Elmer's wood glue to do it. I also suggest you print out some of these hex grids from my website, and that'll help you to lay the blocks on them and keep them exact, although you really don't have to have that. Now the rest of the items are only necessary if you want to fill some of the deep cracks after you assemble this. If you want to fill the deep cracks in it, or if they bother you, you'll need either some sort of caulking. Be sure that it's paintable caulking. Don't get the silicone stuff that paint don't stick to. Make sure that it says paintable on the tube. Or Elmer's wood filler you can find at Walmart in the paint department. That will work also well. You'll need a little cup of the plaster that you use to cast the hexes out of, and that little spray bottle we used at the beginning to spray on the mold. You don't have to change the water out. If it's got a few drops of jet dry on it, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything at all. And you'll need a popsicle stick or something to smear the caulking around in and to scoop up and drop the plaster on it with. Now after you print these grid sheets out from the website, you might want to put them together to make a larger hex grid. There's an easy way to do this so that the hex grid is exact regardless of how many you want to piece together. The first thing you need to do is trim off the excess white edge so you sort of expose the edges. Don't cut past that line there. Go ahead and leave that line on it, but cut the extra white off of the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the white off of the edge here. And then we're also going to cut the tip corners off. So if you look at that right there, you can sort of see we're going to cut this corner off right here. And don't cut too far, just enough to cut that tip of the corner off like that. We're going to do that on two sides. Then we're going to line these things up together. Now when you put these together, you can see the way I've cut this. If you put this over on top of it, it's easy to see exactly where that's going to line up on the corner. Line the bottom corner up, then line the top corner up, and you'll have a perfect alignment. Now the easiest way to use these blocks is to sort them into different piles. If you look closely at the blocks, they're going to be broken on different edges. This particular one is only broken on one edge right there. But there are some of these blocks, this one right here is broken on two edges, that edge and that edge. This block right here is broken on three different edges. So 1, 2, 3, three edges. So this particular block, all of the blocks that are broken on three edges are going to go into one stack. This one, which is broken on four edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the four edge broken ones are all going to go in their own pile. And if they're stacked in different piles, it's going to make it easier for us to build the hill that we want to build. Now here's a quick guide on how to assemble these hexes. Notice that I've got these already separated into groups. I've got the full hexes right here, the ones broken on one side, broken on two sides, broken on three sides, four-sided hexes, and the ones that are broken on five sides. Now these particular hexes are the 1.5-inch hexes. I also have the 1 3/4 and 2-inch hexes. Keep in mind that the 1 3/4 and especially the 2-inch hexes will not have this big a variety. Now when you're putting these tiles together, it'll look the best if you put flat edges against flat edges. This one is broken on two sides, and I've got 4 flat edges around here. So what I'm going to do, this particular one is only broken on one side, but I'm going to put the flat edge against the flat edge here. And let's see if I have another piece. Here's another one with only broken on one edge. I'm going to put it right here. Now you can turn these so you have a broken edge against a flat edge, but it looks kind of funny. You got such a straight line there, it doesn't quite look natural. So I try to put all the broken edges in a continuous line around the outside of the island I'm making, and trying to put on the inside all of the flat edges. So what I'm going to do, if I wanted to continue this one up here, let's say I would get one broken on 4 sides. So let me grab one of those. Here we go. And it goes all the way around in a broken edge. And now I've got two straight edges up here. I want to continue this over here, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to have one broken on 3 sides. That would be this tile. And so then I've got a spot here. Well, maybe I want this to go back out. So if I want to fill in these 2 hexes here, I'd probably put a single, one that's only broken on one side right here. And then I would continue this out this way. Now if I start working around, let's say I'm going to make this come around. Let's put one broken on 4 sides over here. So what this does is it goes all the way around to here. Now this is the next hex that I want to put in. And let's do something a little bit different for this hex. I'm going to go with, we've got an odd shaped one here. This one right here is broken on 2 edges right here. It's broken here and it's broken here. So what I want to do is put a little island of rock. So I'm going to take one that's like broken on 5 sides, and so it goes up around and comes back. Now if you notice we got a straight edge here. You're not always going to be able to solve this very well. In other words, let's say if I'm going to have to put a hex right here, well, maybe I'm going to have to rearrange. What I can do is I can pull those off and put something else in, or I could take, maybe a hex that's broken on 4 sides and just drop it in here. Now you can see that this crack comes down into the land a little bit, but I don't have a flat edge against a broken edge. So this right here would probably still work fine. It'll still probably work nice. And then this comes all the way over here, and then I'm going to have to try to continue this. Well, maybe a 4-sided hex wasn't good. Let's go with a 3-sided broken one. Let's go with one that's 3 sides here. Now I've got me a couple of flat hexes again. I can continue my island out this way. I think that's going to look pretty good. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I'll put this one here. This one's broken on 3 edges. And we're just going to, let's say if we want to finish this up here, I think this one's going to need one broken on 4 sides, right like this. And then I got 3 sides that are solid and 3 sides that are broken. So I'll get one of my 3-sided hexes and put right here. There we go. Now I've got me a little island of rock now, and this is broken all around the outside edge, and all the flat edges are against flat edges. Okay, here's a sample hill that I've put together. It's in 3 different layers. The top layer is just these 2 hexes right here. The next layer under it are these hexes right here, and then I have the bottom layer. So I can just take these and sort of move these off. And you'll see that there's some full hexes down underneath of there. Now, if you're wondering, why would you waste full hexes if you're only going to cover them up anyway? Well, you don't really have to put full hexes there if you don't want to. You could just take these suckers out, and if you decide you're not using the half hexes at all, you could either leave it empty, or you could take 2 of the half hexes and just sort of stuff them in there. And since you're not going to see the top surface anyway, just use the half hexes to fill in underneath. I'm going to glue this together right down on the printed paper, and it's probably going to stick to the printed paper, but don't worry about it, you can always print more. Just take your Elmer's glue and start working from one edge and go to the other. I'm just going to pull these off, and let's put a little bit of wood glue on there. Try not to get too super sloppy with it, but I'm going to push them together there. It's probably helpful that if you take your whole thing and slide it down on the grid a little bit, so that gives you room to know where to glue to. Okay, I've got this one. It's got to have 2 sides of glue on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the glue and let's get a little bit of, oh, I accidentally closed it. There we go. Get a little bit of glue on that. It's a little much. You don't want to go too crazy with the glue. But you do want to get a good amount on there because you want that glue to seep into those cracks and those seams. Because if you look at the edges of the rock, all of the edges of the rock have seams on them like that. So it'll help the glue get down in there and hold better. So I'm gluing this one in. I've got to glue to 2 sides. So I'm going to put a little glue on those 2 sides. Come on. A little bit of glue here. And then once I get done putting it together, let's line it up to the grid and make sure it lines up to the grid. And I'll continue this for the rest of the hill. And since I've got a little empty room on this hex sheet, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the upper layer over here. I'll glue that one together. After about 2 hours the pieces are dry, and I'm going to go ahead and glue them together. You can see the Elmer's wood glue works pretty good. It holds it together. It's not too awfully heavy. Let's go ahead and glue these on real quick, and then I'll show you the next step here. Let's see, I'm just going to put a good bead of glue. It's probably best to put the glue right on the cracks there. You'll probably get the best seal if you get the glue on the cracks. Try not to go crazy with the glue, but you want a good layer so this will hold together. And I'll flip it upside down and try to get the grid to line up fairly well, although it's not critical if it lines up perfect or not, because up this high, you know, you're not having to meet it with any other pieces. And here we go. Like I said, be sure to get the glue near around the edges, because you'll find that the edges are a little higher up and it may sink down in the middle just a little bit. And to get the best adhesion, if you get the glue around towards the edges, it'll work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that there. Now, as far as placement of the little rocks, you've got a couple of options. Here I've put like 4 rocks down so the miniature can stand on it. Here I've got the rocks over here as well, so the miniature can stand up. But there are other places you might be able to, like let's say right down here, I can put 1 rock just back in the crack. Make it a small one so that the miniature can kind of stand in front of the rock. And anytime that you've got, you might be able to put a rock at the intersection too. You might be able to put a small rock right about at the intersection of 3 of the hexes where they meet together, and your miniature can sort of stand in any of the hexes without falling over and still have a little more of a random look to your landscape. Now, once this is all glued together, you can just stop right there and go ahead and paint the thing if you like. If you want it to have a little more natural look, which is entirely up to you, if you take a look at the side of it here, it sort of has a bit of a stacked look to it here. Like you can obviously see, there's 3 things stacked up, which look a little unnatural. We're going to take our caulking or our filler, and we can fill some of those deep crevices, and we can also fill in some of the crevices that are between the rocks down in these areas here. This is the caulking. Once again, be sure it says paintable caulking on there. If it doesn't say paintable, you don't want it because paint won't stick to it. What I've done is I've cut the end off of here, and I don't know if you can see up close to it. There's about as small as holes you can get out of it, because we want to try to force it down into the cracks and down into the valleys. If you take a look at the rock here, what we're going to do is I am going to fill in everything around the outside edges first. Then we're going to lay it flat on the table, and we're going to fill in between rocks. So that way we don't mess up the stuff around the outside while we're trying to fill in the rocks on top. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill in these deep cracks here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this, and I'm trying to do this sort of one-handed. I'm going to fill in this crack a little bit here, and we'll go over to this side. We're going to fill it up, and there's a really deep recess back over here. We'll get that one. We'll get down over here. Let's see, I'm still in the camera. I'm going to fill in this, and let's see, I'm going to skip that spot. I'm going to fill kind of a deep hole right here, and I'm going to keep going along, and it looks like I might as well fill this around here while I'm going for it. And there's a little bit of a spot here. Let's fill it a little bit, and let's fill this little edge here. This one looks like I got a little excess here. I'm just going to scoop that off of there. There's a little peak right here. Let's get rid of that little peak. You can even use your finger if you want, but then you get it on your fingers and sometimes it's a little messier than you'd like it to be. Looks like I'll just go around the outside edge here, 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 here. And if there's any peaks, you can, like always, use your finger. So we're just getting the major ones. Now I hope I can get the camera in close to do this. So I'm going to do 2 squirts of water. We're going to start with right here along this edge. So squirt, squirt. And around here. Okay, we're going to put a little powder on it. Now, be very careful with the powder. Don't go crazy with it. We got just a little bit on the stick here. What I'm going to do is just sort of knock it onto the crack. We'll scoop up a little bit more. Since the surface is wet, the powder will tend to want to stick a little bit to areas even that you don't want. So we'll just go ahead and put a little bit here. And we're going to take and we're going to tap a little bit here. And this will look like dirt and crumpled rock and that sort of thing around the outside edge. So I'm going to do that much. Now what you're going to do next is you're going to hold it over like a trash can or something, and you're going to tilt it and you're going to tap off the excess like that. So what you got, if you zoom into it, you can see it. It looks a little more rocky, a little more natural. You don't see the dark grooves in it. And once we're done sprinkling that plaster on, to get this plaster to set, we're going to once again give it 2 squirts. Go squirt, 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 and we're done. The edges, you're going to do that all around the outside edge. Now, if you squirt it too much, you're going to dissolve all of that plaster and it's going to look smooth and slick. If that's the case, just take yourself some more plaster on the stick, sprinkle it over there again, and do the thing again. And if you don't like it, just take your hand and rub it off and then try again. Now the top surface of the rock is a little more critical. You don't want to go crazy with this. What I'm going to do is it looks a little unnatural for this straight area here and the rock set on top of it. You'd probably think of some landslide or broken rock or something kind of sliding down the hill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the deep crack here. I'm just going to push a little of this stuff in around the edge. Here we go. And I think I'm going to put a little to fill in down around here. Kind of like that. And you know, I don't want to go on top of the rock because that's the flat surface that the mech is going to sit. You know, I don't want to mess that up. So what you can do is you can just sort of kind of push this around with a stick a little bit, wipe it off. I'm going to sort of push it around with the stick up the side of the hill. There we go. I'm going to fill that in just a little bit. And once we put our dried plaster on there, it's going to fill the hole in a little more natural way. Okay. See, if you can see, that sort of helps fill in a little bit. If I accidentally put a dip in right here that I didn't want, well, I can just take and I can squeeze a little more in there if I didn't mean to do that. And then I'll take the popsicle stick once again and go around the edge, try not to block my own light here. And something like that. So once again, you can take that, you're going to 2 squirts of water, drip a little powder, and then 2 squirts of water. So 1, 2. That's going to wet it down enough so the plaster is going to stick. We're going to take a popsicle stick and be very careful. Try not to get this everywhere. Try to get it just down, sort of tap it onto the rock. And I want to cover up that where it looks like caulking, because I don't want it to look like caulking. So I'm going to cover that up right there, sort of like that. So it looks like a rock is just sort of falling down the hill, or a bunch of dirt is falling down the hill. Then once again, you're going to take this and you're going to tap off the excess. So let me see if I can tap this off. Get over a trash can, and let's get it inside of the camera. There we go. That's what we got. We're just going to tap it off into the trash can. So tap it off a little bit, and then look at it again and see what you think. Now that doesn't look too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, it's right there, and if you want, if you don't like some of the rough surface on the very top, you can take a paper towel and sort of wipe over the top surface just a little bit to smooth that rock out some. And it'll look like a little more of a landslide. Then once again, 2 squirts. You might need an extra one. If you've got a really thick bunch of plaster, you might need an extra squirt. But if you go too far and it turns liquid, then you'll know that you went too far. That, I think, looks fine. That, I think, looks more natural. Look around to see if there's any other places you want to do the same thing with. Now, if you look at this spot, you know, I want to try to level it out. Sometimes if you just press on it, it's going to stick to your stick and you'll pull it right back out. One way you can do this is you can sort of put your stick on it, lean it, and kind of smush down. Smush down. Smush down, smush down. Wipe your stick off, and then hold it up this way, and you're going to smush up. So you're going to smush up. Kind of scrape it off against the rock. Something like that.